You are listening to the show that is all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship, the issues affecting our state and the backbone of our economy here in Illinois. Small business owners are the ones making it happen. And as we always say, people should get involved and listen to the news, listen to what your elected officials are voting on, whether it's on the local level, the state level, or the federal level. Pay attention, stay engaged, stay involved. And our next guest is Tom Cross, who is running for Illinois State Treasurer. Tom, we're excited to have you on the show and hear about your campaign for treasurer. But first, Tom, again, thank you for joining us on Get Down to Business. Tell us about your track record in Springfield.
Well, I've been in the General Assembly for a number of years. I was a prosecutor in Kendall County. We moved around a lot as a kid because my dad's a retired Methodist minister. He's retired now, but got involved and spent a good bit of my time in the early years on a lot of criminal justice issues, dealt with child abuse and child welfare, child safety, and things like that. But, it's beginning in the 2000s when there was a change of administrations with Governor Blagojevich and Governor Quinn, really spent a lot of time on trying to focus on making sure the state was moving in the right direction on economic issues. Was there a decent business climate? Were we paying our bills? What was our unemployment rate? Where were we on the pension problem? Because that was something that was evolving and building year in and year out. So done a lot of focus on that. Been very concerned about tax policy, been very concerned about the litigation policy, been very concerned about the regulatory policies. I was the sponsor of a major tort reform bill in the mid to late 90s. So just kind of spent a lot of time in the whole business world, if you will.
That's great. And that experience has led you to obviously make this decision to run for treasurer, but you've worked your way through leadership positions in the Illinois House and have stepped up. And I'm sure that the way that has happened is not just by focusing on your own issues, but occasionally reaching across the aisle, which is something that sometimes doesn't happen enough in our legislature. So tell us about some of the things that you're most proud of accomplishing with bipartisan support.
Yeah, look, I think that, I'll give you an example that may not seem big, but I think in the business world it has the potential to be very big. Out here in Aurora, Illinois, the Aurora University came to me and said, we want to create a math and science academy for 3rd through 8th graders, and we want to partner with the local school districts. And as I've traveled around the state, business folks are very concerned about the fact that there aren't enough kids graduating that have skills in the math and science area, and they're concerned about making sure they're prepared for the workforce, both post high school and post college. And so the idea of putting together a math and science academy for 3rd through 8th graders was fascinating to me. It wasn't my idea, so I can brag about it. I helped them raise money to make their capital improvements, but that was a truly bipartisan effort. The legislators from Aurora are Democrats. We had some pushback from the unions, but the local teachers were very supportive of it. So we put it all together. It will be up and running for this coming school year. And I think, as I've talked to business folks, they're saying that's exactly what we need. And I think this can be a prototype for communities around the state, because the Aurora schools, the Oswego, the Naperville schools will all feed into it, as will their teachers. So I think it's a great kind of laboratory, if you will, for a math and science program, and done in a bipartisan way.
It sure is. So we're talking with Tom Cross, former House Majority Leader and now candidate for Illinois Treasurer, Illinois State Treasurer, an office that has an impact. It's a fairly large office, has a staff that certainly can get involved in issues like economic development and really, Tom, tell us a little bit more about what you hope to accomplish and changes you hope to bring to the office of Illinois Treasurer if the voters elect you come November.
Look, I think I'm like a lot of voters, regardless of where we live in Illinois. I've watched this evolve, and I was embarrassed about the state. I got frustrated, and then I just got angry. I'm like, look, all these problems we have with the worst funded pension system in the country, worst credit rating in the country, one of the highest unemployments in the country, certainly in the Midwest. Our unbalanced bill, our huge bill backlog. And I said, we can do better, and I think the Treasurer's Office can and should play an active role in some of these problems. One of the issues is the fact that we have not had a balanced budget in a number of years. Our Constitution is very clear about the need to balance our budget. It says it shall be balanced. I believe it's the treasurer's responsibility to enforce that provision of the Constitution. And if at the end of the day, the members of the General Assembly don't balance the budget, if I'm treasurer, that means we have to go to court to hold them accountable. We're going to do that. I don't think members of the General Assembly should be above the law. Your listeners have to follow the law and the Constitution. And if we're going to turn this state around, we have to start learning to live within our means. And that's one of the areas where we're going to be very aggressive.
Every statewide office on the ballot come November is going to have both Republicans and Democrats on the ballot and seeking those roles. Some with incumbents like Pat Quinn and of course Attorney General Lisa Madigan and Secretary of State Jesse White and Comptroller Judy Bartopinka. But are you prepared come November, if there's a mix of Democrats and Republicans that win these seats, to work together again for the sake of the people of Illinois?
Oh my word, yes. I mean, look, I happen to think I'm still one of the guys that believes that working together and finding some common ground is a good thing and should not be seen as a bad thing. This state is kind of at a crossroads of between survival and going in the very, very wrong direction in terms of the economics and all those issues I just mentioned. We have got to work together, and I don't care if somebody's a Democrat. I don't care if they live in Southern Illinois. We need to work together, and if we can find common ground to fix our pensions, balance our budget, make sure our unemployment starts to drop, to provide a climate that does that, I'm all about that. And we've done that over the years. I mentioned that Math and Science Academy, but there have been a host of other issues that we've worked on, and we'll continue to do that. I think that's critical.
And public-private partnerships, I know, is a thing that you know a thing or two about, and that's important if we want to make our state attractive to both big business and small business. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and we have to work together with organizations that are out there that are willing to sort of do a lot of the legwork to attract businesses and create an environment that's friendly for business. And I know that you've been involved in working with many business groups, but certainly throughout your campaign, you're talking to a lot of folks across the state. Tell us about what the next few months will look like in the campaign and how people can get involved in the campaign should they choose to support you.
You know what? One of the things we're pushing, obviously, is this balanced budget, and we're traveling all over the state, and people are struggling. Taxes are high. One of the things we're trying to push back on, my opponent has talked about the need to solve the problem by imposing a service tax, which would be a tax on the dry cleaner, the haircut, the yoga class, the daycare center, by getting a will, getting your tonsils out, your teeth cleaned. We're kind of pushing back. When I listen to people around the state, they feel like taxes are too high. And one of the things we talked about, when you don't balance the budget and you don't pay your bills on time, that means it's hard to keep social service agencies funded adequately, schools funded adequately. So it's all connected. You need good schools so you have good employees working for those businesses, and you want them to be trained. But, the business folks at large and small say, Tom, you overtax us, you overregulate us, we have too much litigation. Bring that down. Put us consistent with states around us. So, whether it's the NFIB, which is the National Federation of Independent Business, to the Chamber of Commerce, we're working with all of those groups.
Fantastic stuff. So, Tom, back in the 90s, you passed a bill that I think might be of interest to, or you were involved in a bill that might be of interest to some of our listeners. It's hard to listen to the news these days and not hear about what's going on in the Middle East. Tell us about something that I know you mentioned to me before, involved in sort of your support for Israel.
Yeah, I worked with the Jewish Federation, ended up working with Lynn Lieberman was the lobbyist, and I ended up going to Israel with the Jewish Federation, but to get a sense of this issue. But there's a lot of fundraising going on, and the belief was in Illinois, in the Chicagoland area, of raising money for Hamas. And I filed a bill working with the Jewish Federation to enhance those penalties and go after the very folks that were trying to raise the money to make it look like, it was on the up and up. So I was pleased to do that. Of course, when we went to Israel, my wife and I did it. I got a whole new perspective on it. But I think that was a bill I was glad to do. And that was done in a bipartisan way, and fortunately passed and became law.
Well, you certainly get around. So, Tom, how can people get involved in the campaign? How can people find you online and reach out by telephone to get involved?
Well, our website is www.jointomcross.com. Our phone number at the campaign office is 815-577-1400. I've found in this campaign, as I've run around the state, it's not about me necessarily doing all that talking. It's important for us to listen. And if people want to convey their thoughts, their ideas, their suggestions on how we turn the state around.
Well, get to the website, jointomcross.com. Tom, we're out of time, but thank you for joining us and get down to business. After the break, more talk about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship.